tell you where.
Change
the
venue.
Diner.
We're not going to get the lemon hamburgers.
We're not, because they only serve.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So I just wanted to welcome everyone to this event. Here we are tonight celebrating the 100th birthday of Bill Sackter. And as we look at the pictures from the coffee shop and his time in the coffee shop, I know that many of you know him and have wonderful stories to tell, as does our panel. Unfortunately, I joined the school 2 years after Bill died. I joined the school in 1985, but I had people like Tom and other mentors in the school who introduced me to the legacy of Bill Sackter. I came to know and appreciate Bill through the history of the coffee shop and folks like members of the panel here. The other way that I came to know Bill Sackter in a very personal way was the beautiful documentary that Wyrick produced. And just yesterday, I showed the video because I teach an introduction to social work course just upstairs. So yesterday I showed the video again, and we all laughed and cried through many of the stories told in that particular video. So, and we'll hear more of those stories tonight. So I want to thank our panelists for joining us tonight, and again, thank all of you for being here tonight. So we have Jack and Bev and Barry, and Lane and Tom, and they'll just share just a wealth of experiences with us. And thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming.
B-I-R-T-H-D-A-Y, it's Bill's day of birth. B-I-R-T-H-D-A-Y, when he came to Earth, it's Bill's birthday. That's why we're here, not to mention the free food and beer. So please put on your birthday smile. It's your birthday, Bill, your 100th birthday. It's your birthday time of the year.
That was a surprise. That meeting's going to have a lot of surprises.
Well, I'd like to sing a song and then see if anybody at this table will remember what the event was that went with it. I'm looking under a bus front tire. Will Bill drop his new false teeth? When that bus got a-rolling, his teeth were a-flowing like fine powdered denture cream. Oh, that's it. Okay.
Well, thank you, Jack. So you know, these microphones don't work. They were here from something earlier today, so it looks as if, you know.
We got this one.
Oh, we've got that too. So we'll be sharing this popsicle up and down the row, and which is good because we all tend to talk at the same time, and I really like to dominate this group. Just notice how I took the mic right off the bat, and that's really for a good reason, I think. To start where thanks are really most due, and I think I have to start with him, Tom Walz, who everybody kind of says they have a mentor, and I've become one, believe it or not, to some, they say. I don't know if we really have mentors or not, or we just, maybe we share the same shadow, the same beliefs, the same kind of worldview. But when I was 19, 20, 21, 22, you know, I lived very happily in his shadow at the University of Minnesota. And when he came here and recruited me, along with a bunch of other people from the movie One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest, you know, Bill was part of the package. And rather than say, what do you mean you're bringing, you know, a 60-year-old man with mental retardation with no job skills along with you, Tom said instead something like, you know, well, is he willing to be Santa Claus? Or, and, you know, we found a place for Bill. We dug deep roots here in Iowa and lived here for 7, almost 8 years. Had our children here. We're back. The city has like become vertical, which is really strange to me. It used to be Iowa town, and now it's really Iowa City. And yet it still feels good. It still feels real. And I live in a world where it's often not. And it's about image. And here it's about people. And Iowa, a place to grow, was the slogan that you saw when you drove into Iowa in the 70s, coming from Minnesota or wherever. And it was true for our family, for our children, for us, but most of all for Bill. You know, Bill had no roots, or the roots he had been severed when he was 7 years old. And when he had the opportunity to go Hollywood with us, he said, you know what, I got a coffee shop, you know. I got friends. I got everything a man could ever hope for. And he stayed. And you all were the beneficiaries of that, as are the dozen people who operate Bill's coffee shop today and have kept his legacy and the coffee flowing. And I thank Tom first for that, and then also Daryl and Shirley Wyrick. Daryl was the, Daryl is a very intimidating man. He wore impeccable suits, ties, sat straight behind his desk at the University of Iowa Foundation, where he was, is it president, director, czar, what do they call it, president? And in about 1977 or so, decided to allow a long-haired, skinny hippie with a dream of doing a documentary about his retarded friend, present this idea to the board of directors at the foundation. And they meet once or twice a year or something like that and make decisions about, you know, a $20 million hospital addition or a stadium or whatever, big projects. And Daryl thought that if there was room enough for one more at the end of their 2-3 day meeting session, and I presented the idea of this movie about a man named Bill. That led, strangely, not to a documentary, but to a television movie for CBS that ended up winning a number of Emmys, Golden Globes, Peabody Award. But Daryl, thank you. You were the man. All these years later, this guy, who was another idea of Daryl Wyrick's, his son, Lane, came along and said, hey, I can do that documentary you never made. And not only did he, but he did it better than I could have imagined. And better, I think, frankly, than I could have. Certainly, we had no perspective on what had happened. And he came along with a lot of questions, and we provided a few answers. And, you know, so this is such a keepsake, what you've created for us and all of those who've known Bill and loved him. You know, you're not the man, but you're the man's man. And thank you, Lane.
The man's son.
Yeah. And then this young lady sitting next to me, who's suffered through it all. Well, you're going to suffer when I hand you this microphone, aren't you? Which she made me promise I would not do. There's only room for 2 Morrows in any town this size. And no, actually, Bev is. If she tells you a story, it actually happened. If I or Jack or Tom, it's been winnowed through the sieve of our own experiences, our own storytelling, devices. And frankly, I'm stunned to discover over and over again how I have it wrong. You know, the dates, the places, what actually happened. But I kind of like my version also. Don't you, Tom?
Right, I love it.
All right. And then one of the unsung heroes, but he'll sing it himself, is set down here, Jack Doepke. We were in high school together, we did plays, we were in bands together. Jack has been a professional musician, a very, very famous television personality, and I won't reveal it unless he wants to.
I don't care.
Okay, you can? Jack asked me once, you know, Barry, you're kind of like a mentor to me. Here we go again. And, you know, I'm good at music. I'm kind of good at, I do clowns. I do entertaining of all kinds. And what, you know, if you were me, what would you do? I'd say, well, I'd first of all give up this clown stuff because that's not going anywhere. The only way a clown can make a living is in, you know, Barnum and Bailey or whatever. And I said, so I would say, what? Stick to the music. A famous corporation that uses a clown as its mascot, its emblem, needed to replace this iconic figure, and something like 20,000 people applied for the job and did their auditions. And they picked a guy to become Ronald McDonald nationally, and it was this guy. And all of the, if you've seen Ronald McDonald with Michael Jordan or any number of famous people in China and all around the world, it was this guy in his makeup and his long red shoes. We've had storied and varied careers up here, but what we have in common is this guy, Bill. Simple man who made coffee and played the harmonica. And in his own way, you know, altered the world.
Yeah.
Definitely gave a new face on mental retardation, on people with handicaps, on why, you know, they're not scary murderers, you know, you can't turn your back on, but in fact, they are the people that keep us real, that keep us humble, that tell us the truth, that make us want to create songs and movies and to herald their goodness. And that's what Bill is. Happy birthday, Bill.
Okay, quit hogging.
I have here a letter from Hallie Johnson, who she and her sister kind of sponsored Bill when he got sprung out of Faribault. This is dated November 2nd, 1962. And Lane, you may have used a phrase of it in your movie, but I don't think you gave the whole thing here. But this is E.J. Engberg, the superintendent, wrote, "We're happy to tell you we have a male patient in mind that would truly appreciate any kindness extended to him. His name is William Sackter. He resides at the Chippewa West Building. His birth date is April 13th, 1913. Hey, this is 100.
Today.
Oh, I thought we were just generally doing 100.
No.
Okay. He has been here since 1921. He is of short stature, round-faced, smiling, pleasant, and everyone likes him. He has no family from whom he hears, partly because those closest to him have died. His mental age is that of a 6-year-old. He runs errands and has full-ground privileges. He cannot read, but he enjoys radio and TV. He plays the harmonica very well, and he could use a new one. He would love to receive cards, food, or a little spending money. Shall we say he would just appreciate being remembered to get something in the mail." And goes on about befriending him, but that was an early part of that. I guess I just wanted to say that as I got to know Bill through Barry and Bev, I was playing in a nightclub group, a lounge band, 6 nights a week at a variety of fine musical establishments. And I would pick up Bill every Monday from his little shack at the Minnetonka Club, and I would take him home for the day and then take him out to the nightclub at night. And oh, did he love coming out to the club. He would sit there, and then girls would start gathering around him. and they would start buying him drinks. And if I didn't keep my eye on him, they'd start buying him whiskey. And in fact, one night, he got way too much whiskey. Bev, hold that.
And so what I want to ask the question is, what do you do with a drunken Sackter? What do you do with a drunken Sackter? What do you do with a drunken Sackter? Throw him over your shoulder.
And carry him up to your apartment. And always keep your eye on the future that he doesn't get slipped whiskeys and just sticks to beer.
All right, I'm going to give this to Dr. Walz right now, but Elaine, don't let me forget you. You know, you've got a perspective that's, you know, come in about 3 decades late, but you might be able to sum up some things for us that we haven't seen. But Tom, first of all,
you know, there's so much history here that goes before Bill. I think I look down this row and I see people that I knew as kids and watched them grow up and could never believe what they've accomplished. Wow. You know, it's just somehow life is so unpredictable and so strange, you know. And it was for all of us, and I hope for everyone in the world that their day will come, you know. Anyway, much of what we do in our attempt to sort of keep this legacy of Bill alive is that behind this is that thing that we call the spirit of Bill. And we use that phrase over and over and over again. But as Barry was indicating, it's real. It's real. It's not just a couple of words, you know. And I was trying to think of a story that maybe would touch a bunch of these things that we've hinted at, you know, Bill is Santa, Bill drinking, and so on. And there is one story, I've got endless stories, but there's one story I'd like to share with you. And it's the story, this is after the movie, Bill, the 1981. In 1982, Bill becomes a national celebrity. He gets invitations to go all sorts of places. And among them were some colleges in Iowa. And the college in question, or the college that's part of this story, was Luther College in Decorah. And they wanted to show the movie and then have Bill there to greet everybody and so on, and to come earlier in the day and visit all of their disability programs and have Bill, who then was a celebrity, to be the visiting celebrity. Anyway, the invitation comes from the president of the college. He's going to hold a formal dinner for Bill. Well, anyway, I was chosen to carry Bill's bags and to be his assistant. Yes. He's a celebrity. I'm just, you know, sort of, was I director of the school then? I might have been. No, I wasn't. I wasn't at all. I was just a volunteer. So anyway, he's living over on Ewell Street with Mae Driscoll and the other interesting boarders. And I go by and pick him up at 6 o'clock in the morning because it's a 3-hour drive and it's cold and icy cold and wintry. So on, I think it was December 7th, I pick him up in front of his house. He's out there waiting. And because he couldn't tell time, he must have been waiting for several hours. Because the poor guy had ice sickles down his hair and his beard and everything else. I had a little Volkswagen Beetle. And he gets in, and I had the heat going, and he thawed out by the time we got about halfway there. But anyway, we get there and do our thing, his thing, which was to be the visiting celebrity. And he goes to all these places, shaking hands and patting people on the back and being the magnanimous, you know. He always knew what he was supposed to do. And anyway, we go through this whole day and we get to the dinner. And I remember at the dinner, we were worried what might happen because Bill was to speak at this dinner that, you know, hosted by the president. And Ronald Reagan was, no, Richard Nixon was president then. And Bill had a kind of a thing about Richard Nixon. He didn't like him very much. We called him a horse's tail. What we alerted the president to say is that don't use the word president. Use, you know, the head of the Luther College and so on. Well, anyway, the supper went absolutely fine. You give Bill a microphone, no problem, no problem. He's absolutely at ease, and it was wonderful and so on. Well, it's one of those postcard nights, you know, the snow is kind of driving, and there's a moon up there, and we go into the auditorium, and it's packed. The townspeople were there. There wasn't an empty seat. And they're going to show the movie. Well, we always had to have a gig, you know, for Bill. What's he going to do, you know? He's supposed to be somehow come out at the end of the movie and do something. Well, we put him in his Santa Claus suit. Put him in his Santa Claus suit. And of course, you know, for those of you who knew him or saw him, he looked more like Santa Claus than Santa Claus, you know. And anyway, I have to preface this by saying, when he got in the car, frozen, he said, "Tom, if I'm good, will you buy me a beer?" So I said, "Of course, Bill, you know, but behave yourself." So anyway, we go through the day, through the movie. Bill's dressed in his Santa Claus suit, and he comes out ringing his bells. He had these beautiful bells we bought him. And ho, 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 everybody, you know, da, 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 da. And he's there, and he had a little card that they made for him, or somebody made for him, said, "Wild Bill Proprietor," or whatever, you know, Bill Sackter, Proprietor of Wild Bills. And he's handing them out and signing his name, B-I-L, as best he could. But rows and rows of people after that movie came up and wanted to shake his hand. I mean, it was eerie. You know, usually people, "Oh, good movie, let's go." You know, but they wanted to touch him. And there was something, we all wanted to touch him, or to be touched by him, or to be in that aura that he presented. Anyway, this goes on, and it's almost 11 o'clock, and we had a gig at Clark College the next noon. I said, "Bill, we've got to get back to the hotel and get a good night's sleep." So I finally get him away from all these people, ask him to get in the car, and he gets in the car, and he said, "Remember about that beer?" So, if you've ever been in Decorah after 11 o'clock, finding a bar is not the easiest thing. We found a building that didn't have a marquee. It looked a little ragged, a little tattered, you know, tattered. And we walk in, sit down at the bar. There's a bartender and maybe a half a dozen people in various places in the bar. And the bartender, he's not anxious to serve us, but he finally comes over and says, "What do you want?" And I said, "A couple of beers," and for my friend and I. And we finally get the beer, and I'm sitting there and I'm feeling uncomfortable. And I look around, everybody's looking at me, or looking at us. And I looked at Bill and said, "What's wrong? Is our zippers open or something?" He was still in his Santa Claus. And he looked so much like Santa Claus that all these drunks somehow he'd come down the chimney. Well, Bill finally recognizes this and he gives his wave. I said, "Bill, we gotta go." So we take our beer, we walk out the door, and everybody says, "Good night, Santa! Good night, Santa! Hey, good night, everybody!" But there was that zest for life, that ability to be what you wanted him to be, that is part of the spirit of Bill. Just the gentle, loving, natural outpouring of love. That's all it is. And I think that's what keeps his story alive. And And it's also, and I'll end with this, simply why we want to keep the story alive, why it's so important. It's the heart of that school of social work, and we know it, but we often forget it. It's an essential part of this community that can be easily shelved. You know, another person passes through life. And as if there's no room for continuing a few of these folks forward into our futures. Anyway, think of Bill as the spirit of Bill, and that's his great gift to us. Now, the man who makes this work is to my left. I'll tell you one quick story. This is very quick to just be able to pass the mic to Lynn. We have a group of old folks that we call the 70-plus Stewards Club, and Gene Matthews up there suggested that we give a copy of the movie to every school in Iowa City. And all us old guys said, yeah, good idea. We wrote a little teacher's guide and shipped it out. And anyway, we got permission from the coordinator of curriculum for the Iowa City School District, Pam Ely. And I just got a message from Pam on the email that said, I saw that film last night, and I was so moved that I plan to find a way to build this into the curriculum in 3 subject areas in Iowa City schools this coming year. And not as a testimony to the Bill Centennial story, but simply it's good curriculum. And she said it was being moved by the movie that made the difference.
This has been a very long journey for me. I mean, much longer for everyone else here, but I'm thinking that perhaps the lack of alcohol in my system made it easier for me to tell the story properly.
It could have been better. We don't know.
Well, yeah, but the problem was, you know, I had all these long stories, so I had to be really good at editing them down. But you know, that's it. You know, the whole process started. Well, actually, you know, I met Barry when I was out in Los Angeles. Long time ago. But I met Barry and we, you know, kind of talked, and I knew about, I had seen in junior high, I had seen the TV movie Bill, but I never met Bill at the time. You know, I was, obviously my dad had a lot to do with getting the connections there for the TV movie, and but I didn't really make any connection. I was kind of like, well, here's a writer here, and I'm wanting to, you know, get into cinematography or something out in Los Angeles, and I ended up moving back to Iowa, and nothing really happened from that. But then I created this documentary called The Nazi Drawings. It was about an artist Mauricio Lisansky's series of works on the Holocaust. It was a half-hour documentary. And we were showing it in Los Angeles, and also about the same time that Tom and Barry both came to me and said, you know, we got this footage, we want someone to look at this. And I was like, well, you know, how much footage do you have? Oh, we've got 5 hours, you know. I'm like, 5 hours, awesome, you know, that's great. And so Barry saw the documentary and he said, I want you to do the story. So little did I know it's going to take me like another 7 years to finally have a premiere, which is, I guess, average for a documentary, but it seemed like a long time for me. And so that was in 2001 that I started raising money with the help of Tom and my dad, and got to basically look through all this footage, but the main thing was just getting to meet all the amazing people that were close to Bill, and fortunately, everyone, including Hallie Johnson, who was like, I think 100 years old when I interviewed her, you know, Jack, you know, people popped up, and everyone had just had this real strong feelings about Bill, but the nice thing that I had was I just sit down for a half hour and interview someone and ask all kinds of questions. So I got to see, you know, get to know who Bill was from all these different perspectives, and then I had to, you know, first got it down to like 3 hours, and then had a screening, and then finally we had, and then Peter Blush did this full orchestral music score, which was really just incredible. but you know, just listening to feedback from people, and then so we had the showing it at Hampshire. It was supposed to be in July, but they said no, we're going to be putting in new carpeting. Can you do it in June? So June 7th, 2008, we had it. 3 days later, Hampshire flooded. So that was the very last event that happened.
We brought the house down.
Yeah, exactly. It was the last show on the Titanic, and so we had, but we had like 1,200 people come to that. And after that, you know, I didn't get into Sundance, didn't get into all the major festivals, but it did get into 5 film festivals, and every single one of it was a #1 audience favorite. So, you know, that really said something more to me than, you know, judges awards. It's like the audiences liked it. So I think we had like a real successful screening up in Minneapolis, and Jack helped, and you know, everyone was there, and that's when I released the DVD, and we had like 500 people come. We sold like 200 DVDs that night. I mean, it was just like, you know, after you see a movie, you usually don't want to see it again, but this is something that people felt, you know, it's kind of like a treasure. And with the DVD, there was like 2 hours of additional footage that I put on there. So, you know, so it's taking it out there. But after I tried to get it, you know, I take it to other cities, and they would, it was hard to get people, once people saw it, they loved it, but convincing people to come out to see it was really tough. So it basically led to the complete collapse of my business. I ended up moving down to St. Louis. With my family, and I'm doing medical videography now, but now it's kind of like resurfacing again, because not only because of these events, but because it's going to be on Iowa Public Television, and then hopefully on it's going to be a soft feed to all the public broadcasting stations around the country, which means any of them can pick it up, or they don't have to. So I've got to kind of launch a publicity campaign, you know, grassroots effort to try and get people to, you know, come and watch, or say, hey, you know, call up their local PBS station and can you play this movie? And so that's, and the other thing is that I had to cut it down from 90 minutes down to 56 minutes and 47 seconds. So that was, I think I needed the distance from this to be able to cut out some of these scenes, because, you know, and still retain that quality. I didn't cut out Zoe's coma, so. You know, that's like everyone cries at that point.
Did you cut out any of the narrator?
Yeah, no, I actually, no, everyone's in there. I made sure to do it. It's just everything's really sped up. I did it like, you know, 150%, so everyone's like, no, I'm just kidding. So, but anyway, so that's, you know, and I just got the DVD on Amazon.com recently and stuff like that. But, you know, it's really, it's been a passion to get this out there. So now it's been like 12 years since I started this, because it's different. It's different from the Bill TV movie in that you actually get to really know who Bill was. Bev was kind of the unsung hero in a lot of these things, is actually a very integral, and some of the statements that are made by, you know, by everyone are just really touch your heart. And I think that it's because it's about the caring of people, especially, you know, all these people up here, you know, caring for Bill allowed him to, instead of falling through the cracks, allowed him to really thrive. And that's kind of, it's a great message, and I think that's why it's going to continue to go on. It's not like the Hollywood, you know, spend millions of dollars on advertising, get everyone to come, and then it drops off. This is more of a slow, gradual process, and things like getting this into the school system, I think, is going to teach people about human compassion, and that's what is great about this whole story. You know, I mean, it's it's also exciting to have potentially 100 harmonica players tomorrow. I mean, I'm wondering what that sound. I don't know what the sound's going to be like, you know, but I hope everyone films it so we can get some stuff on YouTube or something like that. But
what you got to do is get that unsung hero there. That lady that doesn't like to talk, but she's wonderful. Give her a
I think Bev should just say something. Just say something.
Say anything.
Well, I was really trying to get out of this, but I guess I'm not going to. I guess the one thing
I would like to say is that the question that I get more than anything is how wonderful and that we were to do this for Bill. And it was, when I look back, it really was a wonderful thing for us to do, but at that time in our life, you know, when we first met Bill, he was just stuck in this little house, and he never went anywhere at all because nobody ever took him anywhere. And once Barry met him, he decided he would pick him up on Saturdays and take him out to get, you know, toothpaste or whatever he needed. And then that turned into Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, and he would stay with us all weekend. And you have to remember, we were only like, I think I was 22, and you know, we were just kids really. And he just became kind of part of our household. And then I became, and we loved him. I mean, he was fun. We took him everywhere with us. We took him to parties. I mean, we wouldn't explain him or anything. We wouldn't say, well, this is our mentally handicapped friend. It was just, this is our friend, and he's Bill, and here he is. Or we wouldn't even say anything. And he would go to our families, and he'd go to the birthday parties, and so everybody, you know, knew him. I think my family had the hardest time with him, and when we'd leave, they'd be kind of like scratching their heads going, what are they doing with this old man? But, you know, to us, it wasn't that, we didn't even really think about it. And, you know, when Barry, I don't know if anybody knows this story, but when he actually kidnapped Bill from the hospital in Minneapolis because they were going to take his leg off, which wasn't planned. But Barry knew that would be the end of him. They'd put him in an institution, and so he just kidnapped him and brought him to Wyrick. And then it was sort of like, oh, we don't have a lot of money, and you know, we had the baby, we had our baby, and we were living way out in the country, and you know, Tom is the one that really stepped in. And he got him a place to live, he got him a job, he gave him a real life, and he felt really useful. And he learned how to make coffee. And I remember I worked with him trying to teach him how to spell his name, but he never got past BLL.1L. And also I would try to get him to draw, and he could always only do, it wasn't really a stick man, it was a stick man that was kind of like a...
Potato head.
But he always did them just the same, and it never changed.
To preempt any domestic conflict tonight, the credit has to go for finding a place to live and a job to that guy.
Well,
so,
Barry did spend, I think it was almost a full week.
Barry got the...
Yeah, if Barry...
But I couldn't find a place for us to live.
Yeah, I mean, Barry's the one who wanted Bill to come, you know, that he started taking him to do things. I don't know if I actually would have done that with Bill. I always dialed the phone for him at work and was very kind to him, but I don't know if I would have brought him into my life, you know, like Barry did. And Barry did everything for Bill. He clipped his hair, he clipped the hair in his ears and in his nose. He took care of his bad leg and showered him. And I mean, there was a lot to do with Bill. And Jack did it too. All those things. So what I'm trying to say is he was our friend. He wasn't
A cause.
He wasn't a problem thing that we were doing. He was just our friend.
How many of you actually knew Bill personally, or saw him personally? Okay, then I just wanted to mention that there was a look that Bill would give you. And I'm just wondering if you know this. Like, he'd be sitting there in our house, and it's like he turns his head to the side, and he kind of looks up like, you know, like he's going to do something. I don't know what he's going to do, but, you know, is it okay? But he's like a puppy that, don't beat me, but can I do something now? Or it's hard to actually put the words on what that look is. Do you know, Tom, what I'm talking about?
You gotta have a segue. This is a great story.
Yeah.
That look almost caused me a major accident on I-80. This is the end of the story that I just told you. We go to Clark College, right? And we do our gig. And it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon. We haven't slept that good the night before. We're kind of tired. I'm driving down to I-80 towards Davenport, and then I'm coming to Iowa City. Bill's with me in that little VW. And all of a sudden, I hear one of these little sounds that human beings make from time to time, accidentally, if you know what I mean. And
Oh, the thing my mother never did?
That's right. So I turned to look at Bill, who was the perpetrator, and there's that. And I started, I didn't know what to do, but I started to laugh. And then he laughed. And then I laughed a little deeper and a little more. And he laughed a little more. And it got so that it was, we were out of control. I had to go over to the side to keep from being.
Well, listen, one of the things we wanted to infuse the evening with is some music. And I knew when Jack said he was going to be able to make it, he was going to bring his guitar. That would be part of the night. But also, I want to introduce a friend of mine who's a newer acquaintance. I've known Adam for maybe about 3 years or something. Adam visited us in Santa Barbara, where we live now. And his famous grandfather is the person that you did the documentary about, Lisansky, the great printmaker, and his parents are here too, both artists. And so I wasn't surprised to find out that Adam painted and did lithographs himself. But as he was leaving town, he said, very kind of shyly or almost embarrassed, he said, you know, I do music too. And he said, would you like me to give you one of my CDs? And I said, yeah, sure, great. People do this all the time with me, and of course most of them think I'm going to be able to get their music in a movie, and then the next thing, you know, they're going to be famous and all that, and I could tell that wasn't what he was doing. So I took the CD, I put it in my car, and threw it on the seat or whatever. Didn't actually think about it for a couple of days, and then I saw it. Oh yeah, I'll try it. I put it in my player, and all of a sudden, within 10 minutes, I realized this is one of my favorite CDs I've ever heard. There's Dylan in it, and Neil Young, and the lyrics, and the imagery, the poetry, the music, the voice. I just loved it to death. And one of the songs was inspired by or dedicated to Bill. And when before we came, I called Adam Weinstein, and I said, would you be willing to come and play that song? And he said he would, and he's here, and let's welcome him up. Come on, Bill.
So I did write the song for myself, and played it probably 3 times for myself, and then months later went in a recording studio, did it. So the past few days since you told me, I've been completely practicing it a totally different way, and it's messed me up, but I'm just going to...
Why is it that artists, just like Bob Dylan himself, has he ever sung any song live where you could even recognize it? How many roads you live on now? But anyway, so with that preface, here we go. What we get is what we get.
Okay.
mental institution. When they let him out, he started a revolution. Must have been some angels who brought him out of there. He must have been reborn, he must have been so scared, and there are reasons to try. And there are reasons to cry. Be with someone so sick in the brain, so we start to hurt ourselves and then we are insane. And there are reasons to cry, and there are reasons to try. Working now, she's got him back in. The government will pay unless he's got a friend.
All right. Thank you,
Okay, it's time for another parody.
all right. Hey, while you're thinking of that,
Oh yeah, okay.
let me, when you were talking about Santa, I can't, this isn't a story, it's a real quick thing, but remember, no, you have to participate with it.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to focus. Somewhere in a video or audio or something, you're talking to Bill, and he said, and you said, and you're playing guitar, and you said, and so Santa, yeah, so you got some reindeers. Oh yeah, I got reindeers. Yeah, what are their names again? Well, there's, and you Rudolph, yeah, that's one of them. And Dasher, yeah, Dasher. What are some of the other names? Well, Sammy. And remember that?
I do.
And he goes on, and he doesn't even know his reindeer's name, and I figured, you know, he could be Santa Claus. Santa Claus never named his reindeer Rudolph.
He didn't have time to remember the names of his.
All right, so what do we got?
All right. Well, sitting at the School of Social Work one day, chatting with my classmates, passing time away, measuring out the coffee, watching water flow. There was Bill Sackter brewing up some Joe. Joe, brewing up some Joe. Goodness, how delicious, drinking Bill's Joe.
All right, can you read this out of my glasses? What's it say?
Barry, your fly is open.
Okay. Seriously, what does it say? There are people in the audience who have stories. No, really? Who are they? I'll be the Phil Donahue here.
I'll just share my reflections on how I met Bill. And I know you from another time.
Yes.
Yeah. I was coming out of the fjords of the great state of Alaska. And so it was a time in the American psyche when there was fire in the lake. And I was coming out of some of the deepest crevasses and fjords of inertia, I don't know, of those American states, as Ginsberg would say. And I blew down from Lake Superior out of Alaska and had my own Dolorosa for many, many moons, say a couple, 5 years, some dark times, really dark times. And so I ended up at the University of Iowa here, and was in the writer's workshop stuff for a while. And these are some radical times in Iowa City. They were burning the, what do they call it, the Book and Crook. Iowa Book and Crook was getting bombed about every freaking night. And they were blockading the Interstate 80, and it was just the same all across America. And so there was a revolution going on, and there's a lot of revolutionaries in here tonight. If you go around and get inside the collective unconscious, you'd probably start a new America right now. So I came into this, and I was looking through any kind of melting of my glacier that was probably 1,500 feet deep, and I saw this little fellow over there in the School of Social Work. And I was taking classes, and some crazy man. And he started to melt my glacier, 1/1000th of an inch at first, and then a little bit more and a little bit more. But it was those eyes, those beautiful eyes of clarity and joy, just pure joy. And little by little, I became a human being again and became part of this American culture, and was rehumanized just by the loving kindness of the folks that surrounded the aura of that place and in those times. And it's rarely said, but all you hear, but Tom Walz, there's a lot of that behind the scenes. And that's just my kudos to everyone.
Thank you.
I'll be there right in a second. I just thought of a story I'd like to tell. I don't know, it didn't make the documentary. I think I told it, but it was the follow-up to the so-called kidnapping. See, Bill was a ward of the state of Minnesota, and they didn't know who we were, what we wanted to do with this man, and they felt like they had a sort of protective responsibility toward him. So at some point I had to go back to Minneapolis and explain to them why Bill was now living in Iowa City and what was going on. And so Bill and I went together, and we dressed up as best we could in those days. I remember I brought a briefcase. I just thought, that seemed like something somebody who knows what they're doing would carry. But there was nothing in this briefcase. And we sat, Hennepin County something or other, and it was a boardroom. And it was, we came in and they quieted, and oh man, I felt like you, Ben, all the time. Only just once in my life, it was then, because I didn't know what they were going to ask of me or ask of Bill. And I remember before we went in, I said, "Now, Bill, look, let me do all the talking, okay? Because if we can't blow this. You're already in Iowa City. If they make you come back, and God only knows what will happen. So just let me handle this." So they said, they did some mumbo jumbo, and then they said, so explain yourself, Mr. Morrow. And I stood up, put my briefcase on the table. I might, if you push me, I'm going to open this briefcase. You don't know what's in here. And then I started talking, just, like I am now, just BSing as I go. And then I'm looking at their faces, and they're like, "We're not buying this at all, And finally, I just, I started like actually imploding and doing this, and then Bill said, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, shall we pray?" And he goes, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed ding ding ding." And Bill is very earnest in his prayers, but he doesn't make any sense. He's parroting, decades of hearing this stuff. The words are words, but they're not making sense. But have you ever prayed and asked somebody to, "Shall we pray?" I don't care, you could be the most devout atheist. you're gonna bow your head because what are you gonna do, you know? So they all bow their heads, and then I look at Bill and he's got him by the you know what. Our Father who art in heaven, he said, thank you, dear Lord, for bringing me a good buddy who is taking me out of this hellhole and put me in a nice spot where people like my coffee. Thank you, dear Lord. And now he's got the intonation of an Oral Roberts guy, right? And he's like in the power, you know, just like, you know, give me a mic, I do it too. And anyway, at the end, we thank you, Lord, amen. And it was just like this weirdness. And then everybody sort of, amen, amen. And I looked up, and the guy at the head of the table shoots this piece of paper down the thing. He said, sign it. And I did, and that's it.
This is the discharge of guardianship paper in probate court on September 12th, 1975, where Bill is no longer a guardian of the state. Those are his walking papers.
His walking papers. So now we'll get to your questions. So it looks like maybe Jeffrey's, we're winding down here. Jack, you brought your guitar. Isn't there one more song we can do?
Well,
Sure. Yeah. Do you have a harmonica or something? Is there anything in the...
Oh, you can have her, I don't want her, she's too fat for me.
Everybody.
She's too fat for me. She's too fat for me. Oh, you don't want her, you can have her, she's too fat for me. She's too fat, she's too fat, she's too fat for me. Hey!
Now that leads me to the story when Bill did the radio show. Is the woman who was alive and did the radio show from her home
she's
still alive? Well, she was, I never met her, but I hear she was a large woman.
Yeah.
Okay, large woman, we'll leave it at that. I couldn't go with Bill that day because I had a job. And somehow he went to her home, she did the broadcast, and she said, well, Bill, you've been a real hit here in Iowa City. Oh yeah, I've been a great hit, everybody likes me, play harmonica. And I hear you've gotten an award from the governor. Oh yeah, the governor, president, he's a good fella, nice guy, gives me like a nice meal. They ate everything they give me. And she said, well, would you like to play one song as we go to commercial? I'll play a harmonica song. And I can hear over the radio, he knows he can't do this somehow. But he has to do it. It's the only song he can play is She's Too Fat for Me. And it went really quick to commercial after that.